You know, he doesn't know this. Senator Ron Johnson's one of my favorite senators. He ran as a citizen candidate. He's overcome a lot of hurdles from Republican leadership. He's won in a very tough state, 3 elections in a row. Senator Ron Johnson, it's always a pleasure to have you. It's been a while. I wanted to talk briefly with you about this all-important Supreme Court race in Wisconsin and why it matters to the country. Why is it important, Senator, and why does it matter to the country?
Well, first of all, Mark, thanks for those kind words. I have nothing but respect for all the work you've done. This race has national implications. First of all, we're deciding between a judge, Brad Schimel, who would actually apply the law, and a radical leftist who will be a judicial activist and will, legislate from the bench. That's the struggle going out, within our judicial system throughout the country. And the left views this as extremely important because if she gets elected, we'll retain a radical left majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. They already redistricted our state assembly and Senate races, narrowing our majorities. They didn't have time to redistrict our federal congressional seats. They'll do that next. We'll probably lose 2 congressional seats. We could lose the Republican majority. They would have no problem in rolling back, for example, Act 10, which would cost Wisconsin taxpayers millions, probably billions over time. But they'll roll back voter ID. I don't know whether you could ever hold a free and fair election in Wisconsin if this court remains in the hands of the radical leftists. They'll overturn voter ID. They will never be able to reform our system. For example, get control of our voter file. We've got the drop boxes. We have all kinds of voting problems in Wisconsin. We just haven't been able to fix them because we've always had a Democrat governor. And you combine that with a radical left Supreme Court, and Wisconsin may no longer be a battleground state. It just could turn, go the way of Minnesota, which would be tragic.
That would be tragic. These judges and justices Senator, just so completely out of control, and they don't care because they just figure, I really do think we have in this country now, I think we can say it's not going to happen. It is happening. This judicial despotism. You look at the President Trump, you look at the past century. The Speaker of the House looked at the numbers. He said 62% of all TROs and injunctions against presidents occurred against Trump. 92% of those were issued by Democrat-appointed judges. I mean, the figures don't lie, do they?
No, again, the left, the radical left, they don't revere the Constitution. They don't respect the very careful checks and balances our founders put into our system. They certainly, when they're on the court, they don't respect the constraints the Constitution places on judges. I think it was Neil Gorsuch in his confirmation talked about the role of a judge or justice is to apply the law, not to alter it. That's not what radical left judges think. That they want to alter it. They want to legislate from the bench because the left, their ideas are so obviously out of step with the American public. They can't pass their ideas, their ideology through legislative process. They can only impose them through executive action when they have the presidency or through the courts. And they have no problem using the courts that way.
Now, Soros has jumped in, of course, because he supports all this tyrannical activity. Elon Musk has jumped in to defend and support the Republican candidate. To your knowledge, how does it look on the ground there?
It's a close race. We are encouraging early voting, and you can do early voting till March 29th. I encourage you to do that. Bank your vote. In Wisconsin, on April Fool's Day, we could have a snowstorm. So we're encouraging that. Elon Musk, let's face it, he financed the ground game for President Trump, was hugely responsible for making sure that the analogy I use is Wisconsin was the golfer that sank the putt to win the President's Cup. We put President Trump over the top, and that's because people like Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, the RPW, all of our wonderful volunteers focus on ground game. So we're doing that. The amount of money being spent on this race is grotesque. It's just grotesque. And so one of the reasons I'm not a real fan of political consultants, they're the ones driving up the cost of these races. But the radical left came in and way outspent our previous Supreme Court justice candidate a couple of years ago, and we lost that one. Only got 800,000 votes for Dan Kelly. President Trump got 1.7 million votes. He's the record the record vote getter now in Wisconsin, beat out Obama by about 20,000 votes. And I'm so grateful of Elon Musk supporting it, but also President Trump endorsing Brad Schimmel and telling his voters, the 1.7 million, this is important. So we can't just elect President Trump and think the world's has changed and we saved everything. No, this is going to be a tough slog, and so we need to win these races. There's no reason to only turn out 800,000 votes for a crucial race. So, we need to turn out 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 million votes, and we ought to be able to do it.
Well, we're definitely supporting your man here, and luckily we have a good, strong reach throughout the state of Wisconsin. I don't know if other talk show hosts nationally are even talking about this, but we've been talking about it since last week. It's very important now. It's same in Pennsylvania, Senator. They have an elected Supreme Court. They have 7 members, and the Republicans don't pay attention to it. So what happened the last time around? They took 5 seats. The unions literally the public sector unions put these 5, some of these justices in, added to the other justices. So with all this litigation involving, elections and so forth and so on, well, what do you think's going to happen if people don't get out and vote? So in Wisconsin, you got to get out and vote. You got to treat this like a presidential election, or they're going to steal 2 of your Republican seats. They may even do more damage, to your state representatives and so forth, because there's nothing else that can stop them, right, Senator?
Yeah, exactly. The left is brazen in terms of acquiring and using power. I mean, they have no problem. They'll sit back and say that the Wisconsin Republican legislators gerrymander districts, and they're outraged by it until they get power, and then they'll gerrymander the districts with the justices on the Supreme Court. Again, totally hypocritical. And the other thing, there's no absolutely unbiased way to draw district lines. There's not. But the best, I guess the least worst way is probably to have, 132 elected officials, in the state assembly, in the state senate, draw those district maps because people voted for them, as opposed to 4 justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And that's what would happen, again, if Susan Crawford wins this race.
We've been gerrymandering districts since the beginning of this republic. The difference here is the courts have not been gerrymandering districts until the last 40 or 50 years. And now they're actually out of the closet gerrymandering for the party of their choice. Senator Ron Johnson, you're terrific. We want to thank you for everything you do. I need to bring you back more often. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you. Take care.
There he goes. Ron Johnson, I like that man.